The M580 is FSP's first entry into curved glass dual chamber PC cases. It comes equipped with 3 pre-installed reverse blade fans and features high-spec hardware support including back connect motherboards, huge graphics cards and plenty of cooling options. The M580 is available in black or white colour schemes with an MSRP of around $115. But does that represent good value for money? So this is the FSP M580. It is available in certain areas now with an MSRP price of $110 for the black version and $115 in white. If you're in the UK, you might find it difficult to get hold of. We couldn't find it available anywhere for sale currently in the UK. The FSP M580 features 270-degree panoramic views of the system via the external curved glass design. It comes equipped with 3 side-mounted reverse blade 120mm ARGB fans and 120mm rear exhaust fan, as well as a front ARGB lighting strip. The M580's spacious interior supports back-connect ATX motherboards, 445mm graphics cards, up to 360mm radiators, and up to 10 120mm fans. So it's a mid-tower dual chamber case, very similar to some other designs we've seen with the curved glass, but this is a single piece curved glass, so unlike the Montech King 95 where it's 2 pieces, this is 1 whole piece. The only thing with that means it is a little tricky to remove this front panel. The reason it's tricky is due to the shape of the glass and also the design of the removal mechanism, or the mechanism that holds the side and the front panel to the case. To begin with, you have to remove a thumb screw, and it's right down at the bottom of the front panel underneath the case, which makes it really awkward to get to when the case is on a desk. It's easier if you slide it towards the edge of the desk to loosen that off, but whilst it's on the desk, as you can see, it is quite difficult and tricky to get to that screw. Once you have loosened that screw off, it is a captive screw, then you have to kind of push it out from the back, slide it forwards a little, and then the glass can be removed. On this white version, it is a clear tempered glass panel. As I say, it's all one piece and it's curved tempered glass. You can see the captive thumb screw in there. Another thing you have to watch out for with that screw is if you put it down on your desk or a work surface, can quite easily scratch the surface if you're not careful. The right hand side panel, that's got a couple of screws holding it in place. They are thumb screws, but they're not captive, and it just slides backwards and removed. And you can see it's a vented side panel. There's a couple of vents on here, ultra fine mesh. There's no additional dust filters on those, and it is just a plain steel side panel. It's reasonably strong, there's not too much flex in that side panel. The front panel connectivity consists of 2 USB 3.0 Type A ports, a single USB Type C port, 2 3.5mm audio jacks, power reset and an LED button. One of my favourite tests of the strength of a case is when you've got this side panel removed to see what kind of flex you've got in that top corner. There is a bit of flex in that top corner. In fact, the majority of the flex comes from this bottom corner down here. So there is quite a bit of flex and movement in that when you have got the glass removed. So it's not the greatest in terms of build quality. Something like the Montech King 95 is a lot stronger than that, but when you have got the glass installed, it does feel much stronger. There's a dust filter on top that's removable. It's an ultra-fine mesh style dust filter, connects to the case or fits to the top of the case magnetically. In terms of cooling, so on the top of the case here, you've got a large open vent on there. You can install up to 320mm fans or 240mm fans, or you can install up to a 360mm radiator. There's 3 reverse blade 120mm fans that come pre-installed there. They are FSP fans, PWM controlled, and standard 3-pin 5V ARGB. At the rear of the case, you get a single 120mm PWM ARGB fan. It's basically the same fan in terms of the looks, but it is a forward blade version. And then on the floor of the case, there is another dust filter. So it's another perforated steel dust filter. It attaches to the case magnetically. And on the floor, there's also a large vented section, and on there you can install up to 3 120 or 2 140mm fans, or up to a 360mm radiator. There's no official support for radiators on that side mount, but potentially you could fit maybe a 280. It might be a bit tight for a 360, but a 240 or a 280 should fit on there.
If you're looking for a new chair, then definitely go and check out boolies.co.uk. They offer a whole host of gaming and office chairs that come in a variety of different finishes and different colours.
Motherboard support is up to ATX form factor, so that includes ATX, micro ATX and ITX motherboards. And you can see it's got all the cutouts there for back connect ATX motherboards. You can see there's additional cutouts at the top here and at the bottom for regular motherboards. You'll notice that none of those cutouts have rubber grommets on them. And as well as no rubber grommets on any of the cutouts, none of the radiator or fan mounts are removable. So the floor, the top and the side, they are all fixed in position. Maximum graphics card size in the M580 is up to 445 millimeters long, and the maximum CPU cooler height is up to 160 millimeters tall. Looking at the rear of the case, it's got the standard type of dual chamber layout. There's a bit of a vent at the top here, 120 millimeter fan mount. Next to that is the rear motherboard I/O cutout, 7 PCIe slots in horizontal format. This isn't adaptable to change it to vertical. And then the power supply mount is here for ATX power supplies. They simply just screw in from the rear. And then there's another vent down at the bottom. In the right hand side, it's the usual dual chamber style, so there's loads of space behind the motherboard tray, enough space to get the power supply in there. It supports ATX power supplies up to 240 millimeters long. All the front panel cables and wiring and fan cables, they're all white with white connectors, which is good to see in the white case. There's a bracket here for storage devices, and it's actually held on with 4 screws. These are just standard Phillips screws. You remove the 4 screws and then that panel comes out. On here you can install a single 3.5-inch drive, or if you spin it round you can fit 2 2.5-inch drives on there. There's also another drive mount on the floor of the case in the other side, and you can install on there either one 3.5 or one 2.5-inch drive. Plenty of points to tie cables down to, so with either Velcro straps or zip ties. You can see all the cutouts there for passing cables through, either to connect up to back connect motherboards or using regular motherboards. On the floor of the case here, there is an ARGB fan hub, and it's an 8-port hub, so there's 8 3-pin 5-volt ARGB headers on there and 8 4-pin PWM headers. You can see the fan mounts here. There are 320mm reverse blade fans pre-installed. You can see also the mounting points for 140mm fans in there. Just flip the case over to take a quick look at the floor. The feet are made out of plastic with anti-vibration foam pads. There's a solid part of the floor here in the second chamber, but the first chamber is vented. You can see there's room there for 3 120 or 2 140mm fans, or a 360mm radiator. Because this isn't a removable fan mount, it will mean that if you want to install fans or radiators in here, you will have to flip the case onto its side. The only accessories included with the case are this user guide, which is quite brief, and this plastic container. Inside is an assortment of screws for installation, a motherboard speaker, and a few Velcro straps for cable management. There isn't any zip ties. For the test system build, it's an AMD Ryzen 7 7800X3D CPU. Motherboard is an ASRock X870 Steel Legend Wi-Fi. Graphics card is an Inno3D RTX 4080 Super X3 OC White. Memory is a 64GB kit of G.Skill Ripjaws M5 RGB DDR5 6400. Storage is a 1TB Corsair MP700 PCIe Gen 5 M.2 NVMe SSD. The CPU cooler is an Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 360 ARGB White. For the power supply, it's an FSP Hydro Ti Pro 850W 80 Plus Titanium ATX3 PCIe 5. The fans used for testing are the stock fans that come with the M580, so the 3 reverse blade fans on the side mount and the rear exhaust. In some scenarios, I also added a few intake fans to the floor of the case to see what effect that had on the thermal performance. If you want to check out the full testing methodology, there's a written review page over at kitguru.net. All the testing methodology is on there. For the thermal load, it's a combined Cinebench R23 and 3D Mark Speedway stress test run simultaneously for 30 minutes. Running the case in its default configuration using the 3 pre-installed side intake fans and rear exhaust will be sufficient for most high-end gaming systems when paired with a 360mm roof-mounted AIO. Under full full load, average CPU temperature is 62 degrees C over ambient, and the GPU is very happy at 43 degrees C. However, removing the dust filters drops CPU temperature by 3 degrees C, so there is some restriction there. Removing the glass panel and adding some floor intake fans also drops CPU temperature, but the effect isn't as noticeable as when removing the dust filters. So unless you want the absolute best thermals for your gaming system, the default configuration and stock fans are fine. The stock fans are a little loud when running over 1000 RPM, so they were locked down to a constant speed for thermal testing. With a good quality, quiet AIO like the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3360, a system build inside the M580 can run quietly even under full load. In the default configuration, when the CPU and GPU reach their highest average temperatures, system noise peaks at just 43 decibels, which is still quiet enough to not be distracting to the user or others sharing the same room. So FSP has done a good job with optimizing the case for thermals. A high-end system should run pretty cool inside this case. In terms of the system installation, overall it's not too bad. There's plenty of space in the case to work. You've got a lot of space at the top, can fit a pretty thick radiator like the one in the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. There's space still at the top to get in to connect up motherboard headers and the EPS, but that would have been made easier if the top radiator mount was removable. Neither of these top, bottom or side radiator mounts are removable at all. It makes things a little bit awkward if you come to install anything at a later date after the system is fully built, especially on the floor of the case. If you want to add extra fans, it means you do have to tip the whole system over to install the fans. With a removable radiator bracket, that is much easier. In terms of alignment, so things like the motherboard standoff, the PCIe slots, mounting screw holes for fans and radiators, all that's pretty good. Cable management, there is plenty of space around the right hand side for cable management, but there's nothing really built into the case to assist the cable management. There's nothing actually pre-installed in there to strap cables down to and make cables neat and tidy looking, and there's no zip ties supplied with the accessories. The 3 Velcro straps are not really enough to do a good job with cable management. The front ARGB strip, the 3-pin 5-volt actual header connection, that seems really loose on the RGB hub. Several times it just came unplugged on its own, so that's something to maybe watch out for. But other than those few things, the installation process as a whole in the M580 is pretty good. The main issue I've got with the case is the build quality and the amount of flex in the chassis, especially at this corner. It also means that when you've got the front panel on, it's not particularly well aligned, which is a shame because the single piece curved glass on this FSP M580, it does look better than the Montech King 95 because it doesn't have that break between the front and the side glass. The continuous one-piece design, it does look cleaner. The only problem with that is the build quality isn't quite up to the same standard as the Montech, which is a shame. But it's got good out-of-the-box thermal performance with the stock fans. It's available in black or white. The curved glass and the RGB lighting effects from the fans and the strip on the front look good. But the availability across Europe and in the UK especially is sketchy at best. I couldn't find it available anywhere in the UK. You may be able to pick it up in the US at its MSRP price. Build quality isn't the best, and the lack of removable fan brackets are a bit of a letdown for me. So that's the FSP M580. Let me know what you think of this case in the comment section. If you've enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. If you enjoy what we do here at Kit Guru and you want to help support us, you can always head over to the store and pick up some of our merch, or you could even subscribe to our Patreon. And as always, if you want to catch up on all the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website.